This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. You probably know that the smallest thing can suddenly blow up in your face. You probably also know that not everybody will receive the gospel with joy. Some will even strongly oppose it. They killed Jesus, after all, for proclaiming the gospel. And Paul even had believers attacked and arrested when he was Saul. When those in power in a community decide that the faith that people have undermines the state, and they attack those who believe in that faith, when they come in mobs as well as in legitimate authorities, how do you think you will respond? When they knock on your door, as they knock on the door of Jason in our devotion for today, June 3rd or July 3rd, 2020, in the book of Acts, chapter 17, verses 1 through 9, how do you think you'll respond? Now, when they had passed through Amphipolis and Apollonia, they came to Thessalonica, where there was a synagogue of the Jews. And Paul went in, as was his custom. That was also Jesus' custom, wasn't it? And on 3 Sabbath days, so for 3 weeks, he reasoned with them from the Scriptures, explaining and proving that it was necessary for the Christ to suffer and to rise from the dead, and saying, "This Jesus whom I proclaim to you is the Christ." So here Paul is preaching the gospel to the Jews and the Gentiles in the synagogue in Thessalonica. He is explaining the Scriptures to people who know the Scriptures. Now, some of them were persuaded and joined Paul and Silas, as did a great many of the devout Greeks, and not a few of the leading ladies, or the leading women, it says. So some people believed, men and women. But the Jews were jealous, and taking some wicked men of the rabble, they formed a mob, set the city in an uproar, and attacked the house of Jason, seeking to bring them out to the crowd. All right, so jealousy of those converting or being open to being converted leads to another mob. And what happens? Well, the same thing that always happens when a mob is involved: chaos, destruction, violence. This mob wants to hurt Paul and Silas, who are allegedly at the house of a man named Jason. The mob is not a Christian response, my friends. It's never a Christian response, even today. And when they could not find them, meaning they couldn't find Paul and Silas, they dragged Jason and some of the brothers before the city authorities, shouting, "These men who have turned the world upside down have come here also, and Jason has received them, and they are all acting against the decrees of Caesar, saying that there is another king, Jesus." So again, those heading the mob resort to twisting the truth to achieve their desired purposes. They are all acting against the decrees of Caesar, saying there is another king, Jesus, when in fact the Jews speak about God as being the God of the nations, the Lord of the nations, the one who rules over all. So the hypocrisy here, is thick. And the people and the city authorities were disturbed when they heard these things, and when they had taken money as security from Jason and the rest, they let them go. So now Jason has coughed up a bail deposit along with others. They've coughed up money for bail, and they're freed. And then Jason and his brothers send Paul and Silas away by night, so they're not seen, under cover of darkness. They're willing to face the loss of the money that they've put up for security purposes and potentially other punishments in order that Paul and Silas would remain free and continue to go about on their mission of proclaiming the gospel. What if communities in our nation started to respond to Christianity now as these people did in Thessalonica? What would you be willing to face for the sake of the gospel? What would you be willing to lose for the sake of the gospel and its furtherance? The time may soon be coming when these questions will be more than just theoretical. Go in peace. Serve the Lord.